Indian River Connections brings you the first source you can watch for truth on board decisions in Indian River County. The Board Report, where taxpayers and policymakers intersect. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to get notified when we go live on Fridays at 7 p.m. Visit IndianRiverConnections.com for more.
Welcome back to the Board Report, everybody. Every Friday at 7 p.m. Today, my co-host is going to be Kevin McDonald. He's the former District 5 school board member. So I'm going to bring him on right now.
Indian River Connections brings you the first source you can watch for truth on board decisions in...
All right, guys, hang on. My producer's not here, so I'm having a little bit of trouble. Let's bring Kevin on. Oh, I love those rocky starts.
I'm now using the phone. The computer has failed me, so there.
I'll tell you what, we've got all these little things that turn up. I lost my cap yesterday. Your computer crashed. Oof. There's a little bit of a sound feedback. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
If that's the case, I can go back to my earbuds. That might eliminate it.
Let me see. When I talk, do you hear any feedback?
I don't really hear it, but I'm on speaker here.
How's that sound now? Ooh,
Good thing.
boy. Let me see what's going on with my sound real quick. Let's work on the audio. How's that? Do I sound better?
Fine for me. How's it for you?
I don't hear my feed. Oh, I do hear feedback. Trying to see what's going on here with the sound. Whew. Let's do. How's that sound? How does that sound? Can you hear me? Stereo audio. We're having a little.
There. Mama earbud. Better?
That's you sound good. Do I sound better?
Yeah, you always sounded fine, but now my screen is frozen.
Yeah. What did you do on your end?
I just switched my Bluetooth on for my earbuds.
Yeah. I don't hear my feedback anymore. But you're frozen.
I am.
Yeah.
Should I jump off and come back on?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay, actually got the second. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, jump off and come back on, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to remove you from the scene. All right, so everybody, we've got something to talk to you about today. If you listen to the school board meeting, there really isn't much going on with the school board except a few things like the schools trying to share their schools. What is it called? New homeschool? Is that
you're talking about the Schools of Hope?
Schools of Hope, yeah. And
Yeah.
Thomas Augustus had wrote in the Sunshine Journal that Dr. Moore sent 2 letters on November 21st to Masters Academy Inc. and Somerset Academy objecting to their School of Hope building notices, which I thought was great. You know, both applicants chose Pelican Island Elementary to co-locate in what their research determined to be an underused kindergarten through 5th grade facility. And both Somerset Academy and Mater Academy are owned by Academica Inc., a Miami-based charter operator. Each letter was initiated on behalf of both schools by the same person, Alexander Cordoves. Though Mater was addressed by its president, Mater Academy was submitted first, followed 7 minutes later by Somerset Academy. What do you think about that? He's got two academies that he's trying to set up in schools right here in Indian River County.
The whole gig in Florida was when this law was passed, I'm sure they knew it was coming. They had their research done and they picked up all the schools that they could send it to, and they just did a bulk mailing across the state. So, and if they have more than one academy, you do it with both academies. And Dr. Moore should be calling and sending roses to Jackie Rosario, because she was the one who instigated and drove initially the classical school idea. And I had the chance, fortunately, had the chance with Dr. Posca to support her on that. But had they not gone with that project, that school would have been Baltimore right now.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
changed.
You were in office at the time too when they were bringing up classical schools.
Yeah, it was sort of part of my campaign, but she initiated that and pushed them to investigate that in, I think, November 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So
Thomas's article covered a lot. It talked about how their data was outdated because when they did their data, it was like several years ago, and times have changed. Am I correct?
right. Yeah, and particularly in this specific case, we filled the empty space in that school, and that's what took it off of their radar screen for this. It gave them an opportunity to refuse to accept it.
You
But
know,
there aren't many reasons that you can reject those letters.
yeah, they did good. I mean, Jennifer Pittman was up there like a fire, like she always is, telling them, "Hey, look, this was your doing. You know, the way you guys were running the school. You know, she did it more articulately and explained it, just laid it out there. Look, people were leaving your school because of the books and the stuff that was going on, and they kind of put themselves in a pretty tight spot there, where now they got the classical school. But if they didn't have the classical school, these schools would have been in there."
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing in the legislation that seems to give them an option to not do it, other than fight it, which they're going to do, which is smart. I think it may be well meant legislation that really got carried away. Obviously, other interests got involved in writing it, and it went in the direction it shouldn't have gone.
So Moore has an opportunity now to get legislatively up there lobbying to have certain wording put in there, because he could run into the same issue again if something goes, you know, to the wayside and people don't start putting their kids back in school. I mean,
Right.
it's not really a good policy to leave it that way. So he should be having a coalition, a little panel of people to go up there and fight for that wording to get taken out of there, or to be more specific, so that the school isn't losing money and having to share its that's just crazy, having to share your campus with another school and another principal, and they use all of your facilities. It's like
It
housing.
is quite literally legalized squatting. They can come
Yes,
in and
that's what I
squat in
was
your school.
thinking. That would be like bringing somebody in your house and they're using your facilities and your food in your fridge and they're just there.
But if you're not home, you still got to provide the food in the fridge.
Yeah, you go on vacation and they're still using the electricity, the
They
pool,
can take
everything.
legal action. They can take legal action if the schools don't continue to provide them everything they want, even on days that the school's not open. So yeah, that makes squatting look like a reasonable alternative.
And then of course we have the other thing where the vouchers, the school vouchers. Now this wasn't brought up at the school district, but the school voucher system, I know that they've been talking about how the school vouchers affect the schools, but school vouchers in Florida are also being used for uh, to teach Sharia law in private schools. So that's an interesting subject there that I hope that we'll touch on it in the future, because
Well, we should touch it just for a second now, because I've seen that a number of times, and the troubling part is not that parents are able to take vouchers and educate their children. The troubling part is that Sharia law is infecting our country,
Hmm.
and that they can come in and they can advocate the Constitution, inject their own set of laws, which include things like you have to wear burqas, you have to convert to Islamism and or be taxed and possibly beheaded. It's
You have to
it
have
is
halal
contrary.
food in the schools.
Oh yeah, the little things like that. I just saw a video a couple months ago where in Texas, the imam went to a convenience store and threatened me. Said, "Look, you can't sell cigarettes here anymore, and you can't sell beef jerky or some of the stuff that was
They're going to
against their halal
protest.
thing."
They're going to
They will have
protest
100 people out here.
outside.
Yeah, so they just as soon as they get their feeling strength, they start protesting. In fact, I saw another video just a day or two ago and you may have seen large numbers of Muslims out in the actual streets, bent over, kneeling, praying. And the woman who posted it was a Muslim, no longer is Islamist, but she said, an Arab, I should say, no longer Muslim, but she said they don't do this in Arab countries. The only reason they're doing this is to flex their muscle and say, look, we
Hmm.
can do whatever we want, and you don't have the courage or the ability to even push back on it.
Well, the
So,
funny thing
we're
is I saw some videos where they say they're using the freedom of speech, but the freedom of speech only works if you're agreeing with them. But if you have any dissent or disagreement with what's going on, or profess what's true, and what's true is they come here not to assimilate, but to dominate and to change our laws for their laws. That's what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan, and in a lot of states, in Texas, and even in Florida. We're starting to have a lot of mosques here, and they're getting bigger and larger. And that's a concern for me, because our students have a lot of freedoms in their schools now. But if the Sharia starts to manifest itself in our schools like they are in other schools, we're going to have halal. They're going to start using the religious thing, and it's really not a religion, it's a governance. And uh, that's totally antithetical to our culture. And
and
women
to our
are,
Constitution and to our
yes,
laws,
yes, definitely our Constitution, because Sharia is the law, not the
right?
Constitution. They come here, and every nation that they've left, every Christian nation that they've gone to conquer, not to assimilate. And we're seeing that here now. They're not
Right.
assimilating. You can
And
see that.
to your earlier point, the strategy they're using is one they picked up in joining in with. Um, it's a whole liberal strategy that they come up and they say, we claim whatever right it happens to be until you want that right and you can't have it. We claim First Amendment rights, but then you can't have First Amendment rights. We claim
Exactly. You-
anything in the Constitution temporarily when it fits our needs, but we don't respect or acknowledge. Because the bottom line of it, this is all about principles. And there are those of us who have principles. Our principles, in this case, come from our Constitution as well as our worldview, our religious beliefs, and we try and consistently implement those principles in all that we do and how we interact with each other. They don't have that same approach. Their approach is our principles are weapons to use against us. Contrary, when those principles no longer fit their needs and their agenda, they will push those aside. I said this before, but I mean, I noticed many years ago that you encounter people that they'll say something, they'll they'll put a stake in the ground, they'll say that their XYZ principle, it's a First Amendment right, and 5 minutes later they'll say something else, and you say, what about what you said before? Doesn't that apply to you now? And they will always say, well, that's different, and that's different means whatever the rule is, I'm the exception to the rule, and it never gets applied to me. So they've just picked up what liberals have been doing for a long time, which is that they use our principles and our laws and our culture and our civility against us. And so when
Mhm.
we have to be willing to stand up. If we don't stand up now, we'll have to fight later. It's better to stand up and
What
speak
I've
out rather than have to
noticed
fight.
what I've noticed in some of these states is when Americans do stand up, the so I'll give you an example like what you said. They stop traffic in the street, put their blankets down, start take their shoes off and start praying in the middle of the street. They are infringing on our right, our freedoms of that space to walk around freely, to move around freely, and they're
Intentionally.
literally yes.
Intentionally.
Now, if we say they're offending us and they're stopping us, nothing happens. But if we go over there and if we just stood behind them and started praying the Our Father, and asking for forgiveness for these sinners, we would get arrested. And
It's worse than that.
our
There was, it was, I think in UK, the woman who was, I think she was actually arrested. She was walking her dog in her neighborhood, and the Muslim neighbors felt offended because dogs are unclean in their eyes. And so they were offended that dogs were around, and they called the police to have her force her to remove her dog, and she resisted. And so they arrested her for walking her dog in her neighborhood. So yeah, that's that, and it's all about, maybe it is about the unclean thing, but it's really about they're not here to it in any way submit to anything American. They're in here to dismiss anything American, anything constitutional, absolutely anything Christian. And the sad thing is, liberals have teamed up with them, not realizing and not acknowledging the fact that when it really gets down to it, they will be on the chopping block and probably first.
I've already seen a video of that in Dearborn, Michigan. They were having a protest. The Islamic Brotherhood was having a protest there, and there were some LGBTQ people trying to protest with them, and they were telling them, you do not represent us. Your people don't represent us. Get out of our protests." They literally were telling him to get out of the protest. Now, this is not me just making this up. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on X. I mean, it actually was happening, and I'm like, but that's true. These people should realize that they're just using them as a tool to further their initiative to advance that cause. But once their numbers grow, just like New York, look, they're at 3%, 3.2% Muslims. They've got about 1 million Muslims. And what happened after Mandami won? They stood in the streets and said, Islam is going to be in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Queens, in every home in America. That is the power struggle that took over in New York City. And New York people are struggling with that now because they made a poor decision. What worries me is that women are objects to Muslims. They are not worthy like men are. They look down at women, and they can beat a woman, they can hurt a woman, and it's
All right. The word
okay.
is, the word you're looking for is chattel. Women are chattel in the Sharia law and in the Muslim beliefs.
Yeah, and a regular woman like me could be walking down the street, and three guys could just go and beat her up and do whatever they want with her, and in their mind, they think that is okay because their Allah, which is doesn't even it's not even the name of God, it's the God. It means the God. They don't even name their God, but it's frightening for me to think that all these women were voting for this in New York City, and they don't realize the danger that they're actually voting for.
They don't put a lot of effort into thinking. I mean, you know, yes, women would be under Sharia law, depending on the country. Women are not allowed to be out alone. You must be escorted. You don't leave your house escorted. You don't take your burqa off in your house if the windows are open and someone could see you. The whole, I mean, the absurdity goes to the limit where you see gays for Hamas, gays for Palestine. That's like, it's like, you know, cows for butcher shops. they, they would be throwing them off the rooftops the second they got the chance. But
And
these people are not intelligent enough to realize what it is that they're supporting.
well, see, they're not seeing that happen in America right now. And the thing is we're in jihad, and I would even go as far to say we're in jihad as in the ballot. We're in ballot of jihad, where right now what they're doing is they've got generations of children that have grown up. They're in their 20s now, like Mandami, and they're starting to run for office. They're starting to take over local seats, like Dearborn, Michigan. You've got a city council. You've got I always forget New Jersey. What is that? Patterson, New Jersey, where they
Patterson.
Patterson, New Jersey, they have city council, they have police, they have mayors, and they're taking over these. And when they take over these positions, of course, they're in charge of your local laws. Just like if we had, a city mayor right here in Vero Beach, they could start implementing things to increase the initiative and opportunities for the Islamic Brotherhood and make things unlawful for us to do. And
Right. And the person who enforces the laws are your police and your sheriff. That's why
mhm.
people didn't realize how important and instrumental the position of sheriff really is, because the sheriff decides what police actions are going to happen in the county. And so
Yeah,
if
the sheriff can
if
reject an unconstitutional law.
the, the sheriff can turn the FBI out, the sheriff
Hmm.
can send you know Secret Service away. They have to get their permission. They got his permission to participate if they're going to come to the county and arrest somebody, do something here. So that's the same thing in Patterson. I actually lived in the town next to Patterson when I was in New Jersey. So it was a very heavily Muslim town at the time. But that was 30 years ago. This whole Sharia thing was not an active issue at all at that time,
Right. And
and
I think
they
it's
didn't.
more active now because that younger generation now is old enough to step forward and start infiltrating some of those seats. So they're, kind of like you were talking about how women are covered from head to toe, but in all the areas in the states where the numbers are not very large, the women are still wearing the open face. It's a softer hit on us so that it's kind of more accepting for Americans, but they're playing a role. And that's what they're
Right.
doing. Because if you go into Dearborn, Michigan, the women are now covered from head to toe. You've got women, you still have some women that aren't doing it, but most of those hardcore Islamic women are covered from head to toe in Dearborn, Michigan. And we're
Right. And
starting to see
and
a lot of that.
Sharia law says that it is perfectly fine, perhaps encouraged, for them to lie and deceive in any way necessary for the furtherance of Sharia law.
Hmm.
So they can act nice, they can agree to anything, they can say whatever they want on their immigration papers, they can say whatever they want, they'll treat you however they want because it's not hypocritical from them if it furthers Sharia law and if it enables them to gain control and then impose Sharia law. Because
Hmm.
that's the roadmap that they're on and that we're facing, and people don't want to hear it. And actually, and I was sort of blind to it until you discovered a couple of months ago that it was coming here to Vero Beach.
Yeah, it's
And
coming here to Florida. And Florida, I don't know if you guys out there that are watching realize Florida has about 180 mosques in it already. And one of the largest mosques in Florida is located in Tampa. uh, and it's growing. We also have another larger mosque that just grew in Fort Pierce, and it's been there for about 5 years and growing. And they're right now they're waiting to get an imam. Once the imam comes in, that's when the mosque really starts to train on Sharia law, and it really starts to hold those Islamic Muslims accountable, and they'll start talking to them because right now some male Muslims can marry non Muslim women, but women cannot. That is the law. And what happens when the imam comes in is he starts straightening them all out. You cannot, he will literally say, you are killing Islam by marrying an infidel.
Mhm.
And that's why I brought up the school vouchers, because the school vouchers are giving money to these schools, and they're being used to enhance and forward the Sharia initiative. And if you listen to what they're teaching these children that Christians are not good people and Jews are not good people. And the way we live is disgusting. The way we live, we are just horrible people. And that's what's being taught in these Sharia classes that they're having.
But they even have militaristic exercises for young kids.
They do. And
Take
this
guns
is
and things.
And it's being done with our tax dollars. So that's something we need to look into and change the voucher system. The school district was worried about the voucher system taking kids out because it was losing money. But I think the real threat is using our tax dollars for initiative that's going to be used against us eventually,
Right.
because these kids will grow up and they'll be the next generation.
But I don't think that the voucher program is the issue here. The issue here is Sharia law. It can't be implemented. It can't be taught in schools. And I know there's a law being proposed in Tallahassee to that effect. But
The No
they
Sharia
have
Act. Yes, that's
right.
by Randy Fine. And I hope that gets passed, because Sharia law is antithetical to the Constitution, and it will change everybody's life. All you have to do is go try to walk down one of those Islamic neighborhoods in Dearborn, Michigan, and you will get harassed. They will literally ask you to leave, or try to walk down with your pet, with your dog.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
America, we love our pets, we love our dogs. So
Well,
that
if drug pushers are terrorists to our country, the person who takes the drug still doing that voluntarily. Sharia law there's nothing voluntary about Sharia law. That
no,
is true
unfortunately.
terrorism. It is true terrorism slowly growing throughout the country and coming here to Indian River County
So
unless we stop it.
Kevin, I wanted to take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about Dr. Margie Fanigan, the chair of Education Champions, that came to the school board and started talking about firearms and the Second Amendment. So, everybody, we'll be right back after this short message.
There's a kind of strength you can't buy or borrow. It's born in the fire, tempered by sacrifice, and carried by those who never stopped serving. Some heroes wear uniforms. Others wear scars. They're veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. Men and women who gave everything and still keep giving. At the Warrior Shield Foundation, we stand beside them, shoulder to shoulder, providing the support, the care, and the community they deserve. We're a proud non-profit, a 501c3, built to protect those who protect us. We don't just serve our own. We help other non-profits reach their missions too, because together, we make the Shield stronger. Donate and help our cause, help their cause, because every act of kindness builds hope where the battle still rages inside. Join the mission. Donate today. Visit warriorshield.org, because heroes deserve a foundation as strong as their sacrifice.
Hi, everybody. We're back.
We
Is the
know
board
from decades of
report.
scientific
Stop that there. With the board report every Friday at 7 p.m. I'm here with Kevin McDonald, previous School District 5 school board member. We were just talking about Sharia law, because these school vouchers are allowing private schools that teach Sharia law inside the Islamic Brotherhood mosques that we have here in Florida. But we also have Dr. Margie Flanagan, the chair of Education Champions, advocate for public education. She was here telling us about her concerns in the Tallahassee decision and claims that it is putting teachers, students, and community in danger. And it's about the bill that's rolling back to its original purpose, which it originally was before 2000, I want to say 17 or 16, when you only had to be 18 years old to own a firearm. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Well, again, it comes back to the question of principles. We got a conflicting pair of principles here. One is you want to be safe, you want to keep your school safe, you want to keep your community safe, and the other is you have the right to bear arms. It's a constitutional right, and there's nothing in the Constitution that restricts that at all. So you've got two different principles. The question is, how do we adjudicate those conflicting principles properly to match the law as well as to show consideration for all viewpoints? And our problem is we usually make consolations for other people's viewpoints, but they don't want to make any consolation for our viewpoints. So it's always one-sided. The particular thing about this is, yes, it's dangerous to put the gun in their hands, but the kids who want to get guns, like anything else, they get them from other means. They get them from their parents. It's when we were kids, you weren't supposed to be able to buy beer until you're 21 or alcohol you're 21. You found a way,
Yeah, so
and
let's
if you want
listen
a
to
rifle, you got to find a way.
let's hear this soundbite, because there's another issue that I saw when I was listening to this soundbite. Let me play it for you.
We know from decades of scientific research that the human brain does not fully develop its impulse control and judgment until the mid-20s. The part of the brain responsible for risk assessment, the prefrontal cortex, is one of the last areas to mature.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
No, it's not playing on this side.
It's not playing on that side?
No.
Did you hear it, Mike?
I can hear it, yeah.
So he didn't hear it. So she was talking about the brain development of students, of young teenagers, is not
I remember that.
ready until they're 20. And she's talking about the firearms, but why weren't they saying that when they were trying to allow kids to read books that had explicit information about sexual conduct and
Thank you very much.
transgenderism? I was like,
So you just made the point that I was talking about a few minutes ago, in that a principle is transitory to them. A principle is something they use as a weapon, and when the weapon doesn't work for them, they set it down and they point it in the other direction. It's a weapon for kids who are 18 and have rifles, but it has no bearing on a 6-year-old kid reading pornography in the school library with some person who's got all kinds of jewelry on their face and tattoos and colored hair and stuff that if you were in a mall, you would take your kid to the other side of the mall. And those people have access to your kids and can give them pornography, and that they're okay with that because principles don't matter to them. They're not never going to be consistent with the principle. They're just going to pick up whatever they can use as a weapon. In this case, it's it's Second Amendment rights versus safety. Whatever principle they want, they pick it up, and it doesn't matter 5 minutes later.
well, Kevin, the other topic that they don't even discuss is mental health. You know, mental health plays a huge role in what's happening to these kids, because when I went to school and I was younger, we didn't have all these mental health issues. And back then, you remember yourself, we even had shooting, like some kind of shooting class in schools. I forget what it's called, but they did skeet shooting.
Archery, yes, skeet shooting,
Yes,
yeah.
they did archery. You know, I didn't do it, but the boys did. I remember boys driving to school with their rifles in the back of their pickup trucks. So, and we didn't have all these issues and school shootings going on then, because there really wasn't the mental health issue back then in students that there is right now.
Well, and it's not just mental health. That's the way that it is. Our culture has deteriorated, and they are at the core of the deterioration. And when you have the problem, they will not say it's like It's like this year they're complaining about affordability. But 4 years ago, when Joe Biden pushed the inflation rate up to 10%, they don't connect the two. They're not willing to say, well, 4 years ago, our president caused this problem, and now our prices are now 20% higher because they've had all this inflation. They won't look back at the cause and say, maybe we did something wrong. We're going to change that. They look at it as an opportunity. Every crisis is an opportunity. The opportunity is for them not to move backwards, admit they're wrong. It's to push their agenda forward and get something else. And
Well,
the Islamists are going to do the same thing.
and this language that they use is the language of fear and the language of intimidation. It's the language that they use when they're discussing these topics because it's really not reaching the root cause of the problem. It's,
They don't want to reach the root cause of the
yeah.
problem. They want to stir up emotions and use that as a weapon to get people to get mob behind them to drive an agenda that they have.
So now I have one more soundbite where we have someone talking about an issue that we really haven't seen a problem with, and it also involves the Second Amendment right. Let's go to this soundbite. And I forget this lady's name, but she'll probably say it when she comes on.
Good evening. I'm Marlene Jameson from the Education
I see it, but it's not playing.
I recently wrote a letter
That's so crazy.
to the editor at TC Palm
That's
decrying
weird,
the
'cause I
public
can-
Mike, are you
supermarket's
seeing it?
decision to allow
Yeah, it's
open
playing
carry
for me.
weapons in their
He's on his
stores.
phone.
It did
Okay.
absolutely no
I
good,
saw this.
except that
face
another
pop up.
reader responded by asking what the big deal was. Lots of people
Yeah,
walk around the
no, I'm not
stores
hearing it. I
armed.
don't
You
see
just
any
can't see
video
the
either.
guns.
That's strange.
That made me feel ever so much
Is,
better.
it, is this
she's
there?
talking about, you
Go
want to
ahead.
tell him, she's talking about the Second Amendment where open carry, and she's saying how she went to the stores and asked them to, not have open carry, and it didn't go very far, and now she's trying to describe and fill the listeners with fear on how dangerous it is to have this freedom to be able to walk around. And now she's pointing it at the 18-year-olds. Now, instead of kids going to school and having fist fights, they're going to come and bring their AR-15s, which
But
is
that
where she's going
misguided
with that.
decision pales in
Right.
comparison
Or,
to
or
what some
pistols
of
or
the
whatever.
genius.
But we haven't had they don't have open carry in Colorado, and they had a mass shooting there. They didn't have open carry in Connecticut, and they had a mass shooting there. So it has nothing to do with the open carry thing.
I think it's all like you said, a play on the emotions, and it's a fear tactic because since this motion passed for open carry or
Jen, you still there?
for constitutional
You
carry,
froze up.
I haven't seen anybody in the public carrying openly. So I think it's all over nothing, really.
Yeah, I
There you
think it
go.
is too, but this is how the left people work, and it bothers me that it's the Education Foundation, because they should be educated and they should be looking at data and real research. Most people, the fact that we have a Second Amendment is a reason. We have the God-given right to protect ourselves, and the Second Amendment is not just for hunting, and it's not just for practicing and skeet shooting, but it's for the ability for us to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, which we were experiencing during the Biden era. I mean, it was kind of nerve-wracking where that's going to go, but at the same time, we also have things going on in our country right now. We have the Islamic Brotherhood right here in the United States trying to bring a law that's antithetical to our Constitution, whereas the next initiative is to disarm the public. But most firearm owners, like myself, I don't want to open carry because I don't want the crazy person out there that's having some mental breakdown to want to go out and hurt people and see me carrying and pick me out because I'm the first person that could defend myself. Most people feel that way. I would say 90%
Right.
of gun owners feel that way. Some people want to open carry, but it's your right. And that's basically what
And it
it is
should be.
about.
You shouldn't look to the government
Right.
to tell you can.
Well, they're playing the same game in two different talk tracks, but it's the same thing. The reason we have the Second Amendment is because of people like them. They would, given the opportunity, take our guns away and impose their will upon us. And
That's right.
Sharia law absolutely is, they publicly stated many times, that is their plan, their intention, that that if given the opportunity, they will by force subject us and even kill us. So the reason it was recommended is we realized that the country could get invaded from inside, and we have the right we have the
To
need
defend
to
ourselves.
have the weapons so we can defend ourselves. In
That's
fact,
right.
one of the reasons other countries don't want to attack America but in force is that we have the largest standing army in the world by far. There's what is it, 450 million guns for a population of 350 million people.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't come after us because we are defended. So what would you do if you're China and you said, I can't attack America, they've got too many guns? What you do is you pay off a lot of liberal NGO institutions to push this agenda to try and get America disarmed so that they could attack us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's behind it. And it's foolish people carrying water for them, or they're getting paid off, or they're in whatever ways that the Russians and the Chinese and everybody who's got money who wants to see us disarmed, they're pushing it, and these people are subjecting us to that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to hear more of that, and we're gonna see more cells of these shootings popping up. Uh, so far lately, it's been a lot of these Islamic people, that have been caught in the, causing these acts of violence, uh, shooting at the White House and whatnot. And I think those are going to come up so that they can start that narrative. Oh, we got to take away guns, we got to it's dangerous. And that is part of that Islamic initiative, because once they disarm us, they can really move forward, because they're getting into government. They've got their feelers out, so they've got government seats, local seats. Now they've got the people that are willing to go to prison for Allah, to create these crimes. Just hit the nation with fear, take away their liberties to make them feel safe, just like they did with the masks, and once we are in government, we'll have full control. Look at Dearborn, Michigan.
It's
Look at
called it's
Patterson, New
called terror.
Jersey.
It's called terrorism.
And we're in jihad. And I hope people realize that we are in jihad by the ballot. You can either be, jihad means to fight, and they're
Mm-hmm.
fighting through the ballot. So right now it's peaceful in the sense that they're doing it this way instead of doing it physically and hurting and harming and unliving people. But it can get more violent if they feel like they're not making their initiative, and they work in a long term years. They plan years ahead. That's why it's working out this way. We've already got a generation that grew up. We've got a generation that grew up, or a generation that came over when they were 13, that have lived here all those years in preparation to take over government seats, to take over school board districts. So now we can start moving Sharia into classrooms, because that's, we can't not have them. It's part of their religion. In some of the cities and states, they have initiated, you know, Ramadan days or special days for them. So they start infiltrating that way, kind of how they use the religious freedom to play their Adhan at 5 in the morning and 4 other times in the day out loud in the streets. Like, church bells don't do that. They ring for like a few minutes and then they're done.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Well, it's it's just the strategy they've got. And you brought up a couple of examples, but the Vatican has a prayer room for Muslims in the Vatican.
Yeah,
Figure
that's
this out.
crazy. That is crazy.
Go to any Islamic center, go to any mosque, and see where the prayer room is for you to pray. I mean, forget about prayer room. If you prayed there, I was just at the
I
Temple on
don't
the
even
Mount.
think they would let me in. I would have to
That's the point.
learn the whole
I was at
thing.
the temple. I was at the Temple on Mount 3 weeks ago, and they have Israeli soldiers uh, with rifles already. You can't. You have to be very careful when you're walking around there. What you can do. You have you. even though we're not Jewish, you have to be very careful not to look like you're praying, to say anything that would be derogatory. Right? That's and that's just in an area that they control inside of a city which they share. So it is the way they function. It is what their life goal is to achieve this. It's a political agenda backed by a religious belief, and they're going to drive that political agenda. And unlike Christians who have this idea that we're all supposed to live together, um, well,
Well,
you can't always live together.
their religious belief in the Quran is only like 30%. The rest of it is law.
Mhm.
The Quran is law, and then they study off of more than just the Quran. You have the Surah, and you have these other books that they study from, because of how it was broke down when they translated all that stuff. So, but I've been following this guy that's a professor that grew up in the Middle East, and what grew up as a Christian in the Middle East, but became a professor and has studied uh, Islam thoroughly, and talks about a lot of things, and you can learn a lot about the books. And I've even bought the Quran myself to read it so that I can reference some of the things that he's talking about. And he's right on. One of the things that I was listening to him talk about this morning, as I mentioned earlier, is, what does Allah mean? Allah means the God. Like, our God is Jesus, Yahweh. Who do you believe in? Yahweh, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. They don't even have a name for their God. They just call it the God. So that's just a small example. They don't have a name for their God. And even in the Bible and Galatians, it tells you to watch out that Satan will do not worship Satan, worship the Bible, and they are worshiping somebody that they can't even name. So he goes
Yep.
into a lot of stuff, and it's really cool stuff, because, like Charlie Kirk said that you have to know the other side. You have to learn the other side. So the way I look at it, I have to learn my enemy. My enemy is Sharia law. And the reason Sharia law is my enemy, because it's totally antithetical to my constitution. As a woman, I will have no liberties. As a woman, that Islamic man can walk up to me and rape me. Islamic man can walk up to me and spit on me. He can beat me. He can do whatever he wants under Sharia law. Under Sharia law, I have no protections. I'm useless. I'm worthless. He
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, but that's only half the population.
Right. The whole thing though is prophetic. Like the whole thing
I,
about
I, I was facetious, but the
yeah.
point is, half the population are women, and they ignore the fact that this is what would happen to them,
Because they
and they're
don't
not.
know. They don't believe it, because they're not acting entirely under Sharia. They're lying like they're allowed to. So they're giving this impression that, oh, you're really doing this for God and peaceful, because when you talk to these converts, they haven't really felt Sharia law yet.
Right.
It's
And
not it's not fully blown right now.
it's like everything else. They don't want to know, and they don't want to believe it, and they function on emotions. So information is not important unless it moves their agenda forward. So they don't want to find out that the thing that they're supporting is completely against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, I think I follow the same
Go
professor,
ahead.
and he
Is it
describes
Jay Smith?
I'm not,
He's got like a
maybe it's
beard.
not. He was
Who's that?
raised, he's an Indian actually from India, but he doesn't look it, and he was raised Christian, but he had the one I'm thinking of.
Are you there,
Yep, he describes, I don't think Kevin can hear me, but he describes the whole thing as a prophecy.
Joanne? Did you lose me?
Nope.
No, you're there. You're there.
Oh, okay.
You don't
He
see Mike?
he describes
I've
the
seen Mike's
whole
face, but
thing.
it's not live.
Yeah, he
I'm not
describes
hearing
the
him.
whole thing about Islam as being a prophecy where a dark angel delivers, an angel of Satan delivers this text to somebody, and that's where we end up with Muhammad. So I think the whole thing is very doesn't hold very much water, the whole story of Muhammad to begin with. That's my
Is
belief.
Mike talking?
Yeah, Mike's talking. I can show you a screen share of Jay Smith. How do I do that, Mike?
Let me drop off and come back on because I'm
All
not
right,
hearing
you
you guys.
drop off and come back on, and I'll see if I can
Okay.
pull up Jay Smith because I want you
All right.
guys to see this. This is really awesome. I love this guy. How do I do that, Mike?
Go down to the bottom, and do you have them on one of your screens?
I have him on one of my computer screens. Yeah.
Share screen, and
Okay.
then just pick however way you want to share it.
Share screen.
You see it down at the bottom
School district. Let me see.
where you can pick Chrome
To
tab,
the
window.
findings. Here we go. Is it better to do window or entire screen?
I do window. It doesn't matter really.
Can you hear with window?
You should be able to if you selected the audio.
Okay, yeah, I did. Share.
Hi, Mike.
How does it go? Oh, there it is. All right, so I'm going to bring this up for you guys to hear. Let me make the screen larger. But this guy, Jay Smith, do we get smaller? How do we get smaller and the screen get bigger, Mike?
Let's do.
Here we go.
A little bit of background as to who and why I'm even talking about this tonight. And to do that, we need to go back to London, 1992, when my wife and I were sent there to engage with the radical Muslims in London. London has 1 million Muslims. In a city of 10 million, 1/10 of the population are Muslims. And they are some of the best Muslims you can get. Why? Because they come from 3 countries, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. That's my background. I was born in India. My father was born in India. My grandfather's grave is in India. My family have been in India since 1913, over 100 years. My sister still lives there. It is where I was born. I grew up, and I grew up in a school where most of the Muslims that came to that school, goodness sakes, they were my roommates, they were my classmates, and almost any big discussion we had was about the Trinity, the divinity of Jesus, the authority of scriptures. I had it in the neck, and I grew up with this, and that's what prepared me for what I'm doing today, having grown up with those great Muslims. When I left India in 1971, I left high school there, I wanted nothing to do with Islam. I was fed up with all this huge amount of discussion and really aggravation from these Muslims. But what was fascinating is, it was those Muslims that really prepared me for what I'm doing. It is those Muslims that really were the ones. I could not get over the fact that they absolutely believed that Muhammad was the prophet, that the book Quran was his revelation, that it was the eternal revelation, completely preserved, never being created, and that Allah was God. Fascinating that they knew those 3 things, and no one really could question those 3 things. So when I came to America and did my undergraduate and was going through my graduate course, finishing off my divinity, my wife and I went to a seminar, just a 1-day seminar in Philadelphia on Islam. And we were told 3 things. We were told that there were 800 million Muslims. This was 1981, when there were only 800 million Muslims. Now it's almost 2 billion. But 800 million Muslims. Now, how do you compute a number like that? Goes in this year, goes out this year. You can't really compute it. It's just too big. And then we were told that there were only 1,500 missionaries working amongst this 800 million, and that this 1,500 missionaries only made up 2% of all the missionaries. Those 2 numbers slapped me in the face. And I turned to my wife and said, what in the world are we doing wrong? Why are we sending only 2% of all our missionaries to the fastest growing religion on earth, the religion that is attacking us at our foundation? It's the religion that's attacking our Lord Jesus Christ and our scriptures like no other. And that's why I decided to get back into Islam in 1981. Because of 2 numbers, 1,500 and 2%. That was my Pauline call, folks. And ever since, that's the last 44 years now, I have been working in Islam. 44 years of engaging with Muslims, the most beautiful people on earth, my favorite people, because they absolutely believe in everything that they say, unlike so many Christians. And they're willing to die for what they believe. Unfortunately, they're willing to take you with them. Nonetheless,
That's
it's
the
not
truth.
that they're doing it because they love it, it's
That's
because of
right.
that book, the Quran. This book right here. This is the one that does all the damage. But
And this
tonight,
is
I'm
when he
not going to
starts
talk
telling
about
you
this book.
about the books.
I did that a year and a half ago. We're not going to talk so much about this book. I'm going to talk about the man behind this book, the man that received this book.
And what he does is he breaks down the lineage, he breaks down the timeline of how
Of why-
Islam, yes, and he does a really great job. I've watched several of his videos, and I would recommend him to anybody, because at the same time he explains, there is his respect for the Muslims, because you can't. The Muslims that came to America were trying to escape Islam. They were. Then you have the open borders, and then you have this whole flux of people that come in. Now the Muslims that are already here have to follow the Islamic Brotherhood, or they're going to receive hell over it. Like you were saying earlier, they're going to go and protest at your business. So you've got Muslims that did come over that tried to escape it, that are here now. But then with the open borders and all this stuff that went on during the Biden regime, and now they're here. And some of them were coming over years and years ago because they were planning this, because their initiative is to spread over the entire world, every country. So they were bringing them in back then before Biden. So they've got people that were here a long time ago, but now it's just at a point where there's so many here that we have cells. They let in actual leaders that were going to train people, and something's going to happen eventually here in the United States. We just don't know when that's going to happen, because it's long term. But this guy, Jay Smith, I would recommend him to anybody who wants to learn about Islam and the other side. So that's why I went and bought the Quran, and I want to buy one of the other ones that he mentions in there, so that I could start seeing and have that dialogue to understand it better. Like Charlie Kirk said.
Is this the video? Oh, I'm getting echo. Are you hearing that?
I don't know. An echo?
Okay, so this is the video where he explains that the Quran was written like 200 years after Muhammad lived.
600 years, yeah, and all the people, none of them lived during his time. This is like one of the first videos. I'm far beyond this video, but this is like what he talks about, how when he compares with Jesus, like who wrote the stories in Jesus. You've got John, Paul, and you've got people that were actually in the time of Jesus, where there's nobody in the time of Muhammad. He's dead, and they're writing books from the person that told him a story, person that told him a story, person that told him a story, person that told him a story. And we all know that when you tell two friends, and then those two friends tell the story, and then they tell the story, it's not the same. I'm at one of the videos where he actually shows, when he goes back to the actual writings, the actual papers that they found that were written, and he's actually showing where they changed, where they erased things and put certain words in there. And he's like, but if you talk to someone that's preaching Sharia law, they'll tell you that it's the true book, that everything is true, and it's never been altered. But he's actually showing from history, the history pages, I forget what you call that, and he's going back and showing you the pages that were altered. And he's like, this is in more than one book, because they read backwards, and then you have another book where it's translated, and then you have the one book where everybody follows. So it's a lot of information, but it's good to know, because these people that are being converted not because they read the book and learned the history. It's because they're listening to whatever the imam is telling them. So it's very interesting.
Coming to a city near you.
Yeah, it is. It's coming to our city. That's why I got so concerned when we were talking about Epic City, because Epic City is also owns all that land in Port St. Lucie that they're trying to sell off to the data center people. And then when I did research on that, the data center people come from Texas as well.
Yeah.
It's just funny that everything, all these big investors are coming from Texas.
Anyway, I'm getting that echo, but
Are you getting that echo?
I appreciate you guys holding down the fort and keeping these shows going. It's been a busy week. I would say 2 weeks for our county, and a lot of emotions. I don't know if you guys got into the sheriff deputy that was shot or not. There's plenty of time for that, but
that was a fantastic memorial, I have to tell you. I loved that memorial.
I thought it was pretty well put together too. And I saw some of the locksmith David Long's, and I thought his was pretty good. There.
I'm still here.
There we go.
Let's get rid of that guy.
Yeah.
So it was one of those kinds of weeks and a horrible Thanksgiving for this county, but there was a lot of good that came out of it. You learned a lot of good. You heard a lot of good about one of our own citizens who unfortunately isn't here anymore. But I do want to say I do appreciate what the sheriff's department did for David Long and Deputy Mashkow. I think they
Mashkow, yeah,
they did a really good job memorializing her, and thanks to the governor and all that. Excuse me. I did want to bring up. I thought it was noteworthy that the sheriff had mentioned the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the CFO, and stopped short of recognizing any county commissioners that might have been.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I don't think he made anything political, but I think that was a good way of saying, you know, the CFO's here. You know, we've been talking. You know,
and the county commission, some of the county commissioners were there.
I'm sure they were, and it was a really good event. I know their audio sucked at the beginning.
It did.
We were able to restream it and we pick the best feeds to put out there. So we did that. And there was some other people there that took good content, like to memorialize it in video and stuff like that. So it's all over Facebook, but
it was really nice to see how well they did that. And, you know, the helicopters were flying up above my house while they were waiting for their own procession to come in. And the motorcycle brigade, the whole cage of them going through the city was just great. I mean, I got stopped at one of the lights just seeing all the guys go by, you know, kind of made me cry a little bit. And
it's amazing how they come together for each other.
Yeah, it really is. I kind of felt left out. Like I was like, man, I wish I had known this woman. What an amazing woman to know. Like I wanted her to touch my life after that. Like she already did, you know, because and it was, you know, I was thinking on my way to work this morning, I was thinking, man, you know, they're always vilifying the police officers, and, you know, just to see such a beautiful person, you know, have to leave our town, our city, and in law enforcement is a great loss, you know, because
they're people too.
is tough. Yeah, they are people too. And just like any organization, you might have good people and bad people, but there's a great larger percentage of great people that are working in that organization. So I was thinking about that on my way to work this morning.
Wouldn't it be great if the rest of the community could come together like the police community did, support each other and make space for each other rather than always be looking for the next opportunity to attack and defeat us?
Well, there's always going to be somebody there to put salt on a wound or poke the bear and kick the hornet's nest. And we're going to see a lot more of that coming up, especially heading into election season. And as far as the sheriff goes, from what I hear, there's going to be some more shocking information coming out about his dealings at the sheriff's department. So I'm kind of glad it kind of quieted down for the week or two while the community laid these two great people to rest, and it's kind of like a turn of the page. And now I think we're going to start seeing more mud slung and more personal information out there that some of these people don't want to see. But at the same time, accountability for those in public office. If it wasn't for that, what would you have? So
Yeah,
it'll
and
be interesting.
that's what they sign up for. If you're gonna take on such a role to represent so many people, you better keep it straight. You know, the people have a right to know.
And isn't it sad that, I mean, you're right, we had sort of a week of mourning, and I received the paper yesterday and opened up the paper, and the opinion section, rather than report some, he had some interesting different pieces of information that was different than what I had heard, which fleshed out the story. But rather than focus on what really happened and telling everybody what happened and getting the facts straight enough there, he had to start off. He used it as an opportunity just for another all-out attack on the sheriff. And I get it. You don't like him. Some people do. Some people don't. He obviously doesn't. But you can't lay off for 1 week. You can't focus on the story at hand and not
Even
use it as.
if Michael Dilks can back off the sheriff for a week, you think McNulty, right? That's who we're talking about. McNulty could.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't
speaking
using
of,
names, but
yeah, I hate him too, the names. But speaking of Dilks, he called out another personality who made this political and did the same thing after the Charlie Kirk assassination. He brought both of these incidents back to the sheriff's budget request, and that was Dennis Michael Lynch, who that former Newsmax personality who lives in Vero Beach and is in the sheriff's corner. He's a big donor of the sheriff also. So he immediately, from what I understand, made this about the sheriff's budget. Terry wasn't even gone, a few days before he made a video doing just that. So I wouldn't know that if I didn't watch one of Dilk's episodes, but he does a podcast called Copville, which is pretty interesting. It sheds a light on the inside of how these deputies and law enforcement deal with the day-to-day environment that they work in. So, but other than that, I appreciate you guys. I don't know if you guys have any more, but I'm going to jump off, and we've got some fair food we had brought home from Light Up Fellsmere tonight, and I didn't get a chance because we had to be in 3 different places at the same time. And
So how was that Light Up
yeah,
Fellsmere?
how was the
Is it
fair?
really worth going to? Is it a nice event, or what is it?
you're asking me?
I'm
Oh,
asking you, man. You
You were
were there.
there.
yeah. It was a little unorganized. It was a little chaotic. It was a lot of Spanish. But the kids there was a lot of performing on stage, the kids from the elementary school. And then I think one of the local churches heavily involved in it. So some other kids were performing, and they had Santa come in, and I had to get out of there just before that. So, but I left the other kids and Elisa there to deal with it. But, it was nice. It'll get better as it goes. Fellsmere has a new city manager. Can't think of his name. But I've seen him. It's the second time I've seen him this week. He was at the elementary school last night for their tree lighting. So that's a plus. Like, I can pick him out of a crowd. Before, I don't think I could. The prior city manager, half the city council, I couldn't recognize, but, I did see one of them at the elementary school last night. And I bring that up because I think it's important. Like, this is your community. And
Mhm.
Fellsmere is a good example. It's such a small community. And there's so much going on in Fellsmere. 5 people make the decisions, and there might be 5 other people in the room witnessing it. And nobody else in the freaking county knows, yet we still have to contribute for every service they use of the counties, including law enforcement and all the other utilities and stuff like that. So it's good to see these people actually have a face in the public, not just
Mhm.
in the agenda minutes. But
Yeah, they need to get to know their community.
yeah, and I'll shout him out. Ben Baker, he's a city councilman. I seen him at the Fellsmere tree light up, whatever they called it. It was their first one, and they'll get better at that too. But yeah, it's good to see them out. I didn't see anybody else, county commissioners or anything like that. But
No
it's a
Susan
busy
Adams,
season.
that's her territory.
I didn't
Mhm.
see her. Usually, she is a staple at almost everything in Fellsmere in front of that city hall, but she might have been there. I don't know.
Well, maybe she had another engagement. It is Friday, so sometimes they have other
Yeah,
engagements on Friday.
it's busy time of the year too. So,
Mhm.
but
Zero
Yeah.
football.
yes, tonight is the game, right? And they're
Yeah.
playing Miami.
I don't know who they're playing. Thomas was going to go, but he got sick.
Yes, I believe they're playing Miami, and I heard some complaining that they stopped the guy with the horn. I guess there's a citizen that goes to every home game,
With a blowhorn.
and it's like they expect him to be there. Well, I guess it's in part of the rule or guidelines. Once they advanced to the next level, they have to eliminate any of that highly obnoxious or
Distracting noises.
distracting stuff. I don't know. I heard another school complaining about it last week, but I don't know. I don't go to the games, but that hometown high school football, genre, that clique, they're very proud of what they do, and I hope Vero wins. I'm not a football guy, but I hope Vero wins. I'd like to see Vero.
Vero's got a good team.
They got an amazing team, so they got a lot to be proud of.
And they
They got a
haven't
great
made it this
coach.
far since 1998, I believe. So that's really good. So hopefully they make it all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've earned it.
Yeah. Anyways,
right.
that's all I got. I won't bug you guys with any more unless you have more.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up, and we'll just remind everybody to join us every Friday at 7 p.m. for local news on the board report, brought to you guys by IRC Media, and go to our website at indianriverconnections.com. And
Joanne,
remember,
before we go, also a shout out for Moms for Liberty celebrating their 5th anniversary. Since Jennifer's not here to point that out.
Yes, we love Moms for Liberty. They are the staple here on Indian River Connections, on IRC Media in our county, always at the school board fighting for our kids and parental rights. Also, Thomas Augustus is not with us tonight because he's homesick, and he's the editor-in-chief of the Sunshine Journal. Please go to thomasaugustus.substack.com. That's thomasaugustus.substack.com, and look at all the articles that he writes here in Indian River County. Great news, great way to stay on top of things. And of course, Kevin, thank you for joining us again tonight, our previous district school board member, and we hope you run
again.
Thanks
for having
me. And thank you, Mike, for coming on board. I always feel like
Sorry, I
feel
late.
better when you're on board, and I know you were out with your family, and family is
Yeah.
always very important. You have beautiful children, so
They
thank
keep
you.
me busy.
Thank you to your wife for always sharing you with us.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. Good night. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining us. Remember to like, share, and tell everybody about us. We need to have your support so that we can keep doing our shows. And visit our website. We have a lot of other contributing podcasters there that you can visit, like Shattering the Narrative, and who else? So we've got, don't forget, next Thursday is the Conspiracy Theory at Filthy's, right?
Conspiracy Club.
This Conspiracy Club.
You got a club now?
Yes,
well, it's their club. It's our broadcast.
Yeah, Conspiracy Club at Filthy's at 6 o'clock. It's a lot of fun. People show up. You sign up to talk about your conspiracy. So that's all I've got for you guys tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks again.
And I'll take us out. Thank you, guys.
Right.